everyone. This is Tia the Southern Rose. Thank you so much for stopping by again. Today, I'm going to discuss one of my favorite stories, which is how I got my dream career. And I have pulled out the notebooks I used when I was scripting this career, what I wanted, and what the ideal situation would be. And so, one of these notebooks, I wrote it till it literally fell apart. So, you know this is going to be a good one. So, for starters, let's go back at least a decade. This was before I got married, before I became a mom, all of this. I got the book, Write It Down, Make It Happen, by Dr. Henriette Ann Clouser. I will put the information in the description box. I love that book. I go back to it regularly, even all this time later, and I reread passages because I love the stories and her way of explaining different techniques, which is basically a guide to scripting as we know it now. The way that she describes these different techniques puts me in mind of Malcolm Gladwell's approach of writing stories, of finding stories to fit these principles that she's teaching. So, Dr. Clouser mentioned the power of writing things down. So I knew it already when, after reading her book a decade ago. So 4 years ago, when I decided, actually 4.5 years ago, when I decided I was going to go for my dream career, I already knew writing needed to be part of my arsenal, but I wasn't quite clear how I needed to make this all come together. So, what I decided to do first was, of course, get the journals that I needed because I didn't know how long this was going to take. I did know that this could happen very quickly after I start the writing process, but I didn't have a timeline in mind. This was in June of 2016 that I was really getting tired of my last job and I wanted my dream job finally. I felt like I had earned it. I had done the work, I had gotten the education, I had gotten the skill set, and I still wasn't seeing certain traction in my job, so I knew I had to do something else. What I did was on July 4th, 2016, yes, it's a whole page, it just fell out, but July 4th, I wrote down what I disliked about my last job. Now, that might seem to you a little counterproductive. You're talking about using law of attraction or manifestation, things like that. You're supposed to focus on what you want, the positives, right? You will. Sometimes you have to get clear on the negatives first so that you know exactly what you really want. Um, if you are saying this situation, I just hate it, but you're not being clear enough about what you hate about it, you might end up with the same situation when you go into a new space. So here's what I wrote. My problems with my last job, it was a legal office, it was a federal position. I said that there were too few telework days, little to no interesting work, micromanagement. They reneged on a promise to give me my own office. The projects were dull and unsatisfying. There weren't any opportunities for upward growth. I didn't have the opportunity to earn credit or comp time, which, as the parent of a small child, I really needed because if I was in the office, I could work a 10 or 12-hour day with ease, but it didn't do me any good to work those kind of hours when I got in if I couldn't use that extra time to kind of buffer the time off that I needed to go to doctor's appointments or when my daughter got sick and things like that. A lack of organization within my specific office, not the whole organization, but just within my office, there was a lack of organization. There was a lot of busy work, tasks were dumbed down, the systems were outdated, and equipment was outdated as well. There were a lack of creative outlets for us at the job, and the structure was highly class conscious. As someone who comes from blue collar family, I found it a little awkward to try to interact with these very white collar colleagues of mine, even though they were very nice. They were pleasant enough, but it was still a matter of not being able to break through certain things if you weren't from the right class, which exists everywhere, but for me, it was just uncomfortable at the time. Now, this is important. I didn't immediately try to flip these positives into my ideals. I let a little time lapse just to kind of think about them, just to be sure that this is what really bothered me. It was 3 days later that I wrote down what the pros of my dream job would be. I put down it would be well paid, lots of downtime. I'd be able to take off time whenever I liked. It would be close to many museums, which was really important. I was working in Washington, D.C. My old office was close, everything downtown is close to a museum technically, but the walk to the museums was a little farther from my old office than from my dream job would be. And that it would be comfortable and predictable work. That's a very interesting thing that I wrote, and now I'll have something to say about that. Coworkers are pleasant enough. Again, another interesting way of putting it. And that I'd be able to have lots of flexibility and the job would be gracious. Okay, so I wrote that all down. That was July 7th, right? So I did my normal thing. I kept applying for jobs. And on the 21st of July, that same month, 2 weeks after I wrote down what I wanted, I applied for a management and program analyst job, entry level. But the good thing about being a federal employee is that even if you're entry level into a job, you can transition from one job to the other and not have a change in your pay. As far as reducing your pay, they would just have you get to the point where you basically like break even. You wouldn't lose any money, but you wouldn't get any money until the pay schedule of your new job kind of catches up. You've got like, it's kind of complicated to explain, but in any case, I was able to take my income over to even a lower level job that I applied for. So I applied for this job, and a couple of weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, I get a phone interview for the job. I can't remember the exact day because I don't think I wrote that down. This notebook fell apart before I could, as a matter of fact. Let me look in this one because I may have dropped off and picked back up. No, no, this one was before. Um, but I knew that I got crystal clear on what I wanted, which was a benevolent management situation. I wanted management that was a dream to work with and work for. And I went to this in person. Well, I did the phone interview a few weeks after the job application was put in, and it went well, and I got a good vibe from it. And then I was called in for an in person interview. And one thing I can say, if I do an in person interview, I almost always get the job. I'm far more impressive in person than over the phone. So I did this in person interview, and the manager and I vibed, and I just got the right energy from him. I had scripted out the interview before, and I wish I could find the notebook with it in there. But I did write out the interview, how I wanted us to have really great rapport, how I'd get to the job in adequate time, and how nice it would be to work in this beautiful office in this amazing location. All of that I wrote down, and it all came true. So here's what happened. I'm going to go back to that list I wrote, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I got because I got exactly what I asked for. And sometimes you have to be careful with that. In fact, most of the time you have to be careful with that. So let's see. I'm trying to find the page now. Here we go. So the pros, well paid. It was very well paid. I got time off awards and cash awards. It was fantastic. It was well paid. And my new job, even though it was entry level, quickly surpassed my old job in payment. So I was making a lot more in a shorter period of time. Lots of downtime to work on other things. I got that too. While I did have a lot of projects, I had adequate time in between to work on other things that I was interested in. I had time to take training on the clock. They encouraged us to take our own time to go through training modules. It was fantastic. Able to take off days whenever I like. That's very true. I got that too. I should have gotten more specific here and said ability to earn comp hours and credit hours because I wasn't able to earn those at this job. I was just able to take the time as I needed. Close to many museums. I was smack dab at right by the what was the Verizon Center. I forget the name of it now. The where the Washington Wizards play. Capital One Arena. That's the name of it. Capital One Arena. I was right by it. And if you are familiar with Washington D.C., Capital One Arena is literally one block over from two major Smithsonian museums, the Museum of American History and the no Museum of American Art, as well as the Portrait Gallery, National Portrait Gallery. So it was right there by those museums. I could walk up another block or two and get to more museums. I was closer to the museums than I had been in a long time. Comfortable and predictable and left alone for the most part. I did get those. The left alone, for the most part, yes, it actually got rather lonesome. So there's a happy balance with that. I would get rather lonesome from time to time. Comfortable and predictable work. The work was comfortable, it was predictable, but at a point that became kind of boring, which is sad but true, you know. And coworkers were pleasant enough. They absolutely were just pleasant enough. They weren't people that I really enjoyed the way that I did my last job. They were enjoyable, but it wasn't like my last job. So that was a bit frustrating for someone who's not terribly social, but who still likes to have good experiences on the clock. So, the quick and dirty version of what to do to get your new dream job. Start off with a notebook. This came from the Dollar Tree. You see, it's thin, it's about 80 pages, I believe. Get a little notebook, something that you're going to like looking at and don't mind writing in. And you start off by putting down what your timeline is. Perhaps you are saying, I want a new job by June 2021. So you put December 2020 through June 2021. This is going to cover that period, right? So for me, I put down the dates, and I always put my dates after I finish filling it, but I've also done it in notebooks where I put it before. That's a good, effective routine as well. Put your dates. Put down what the book is going to be for. Put down dream job journal, whatever. Write down the date of your first entry. Write what you hate about your current job situation. Are you not making enough money? Do you not have enough hours? Do you not like the people? Do you hate the work itself? Are you saying, I want to be in a completely different field? Write down all of your grievances, all of what you hate. After you do that, you're going to think about it. What would be ideal? I mean, for me, I made mine very realistic, pleasant enough coworkers. But then I also put down well paid. I put down all the things that I thought I wanted at the time. So I advise you give a little time between when you write your grievances and when you write your desires. But write them down. Write them down and date it. And then after you do that, you're going to start stepping into your dream job. Okay? What does that look like? Stepping into your dream job consists of preparing your current job as if you were about to leave. So after I finished this, I cleaned my office up as if I had just gotten the call for a new job. I cleaned up, I tidied up, I started shredding excess documents, and I started saving documents that I knew or emailing documents to my home email that were like personal documents that I wanted to keep that I knew I wouldn't be able to access once I had left that particular computer at the old job. So behave as if you've already gotten the new job and you're just going to start closing down things. You don't have to do this every day and you don't have to make it super obvious. My coworkers saw me doing it, but I tried to be subtle with it. And again, in a matter of weeks, I had interviews and then I eventually had a job offer less than 60 days later. So prepare for it, step into it. These same principles apply for anything. You want a husband or wife, you want a child, you want a new car, a new home. These things apply all across the board. You simply write down what doesn't work for you right now, get clear on what does work, what you prefer, and then start stepping into it. That's really it. Some people would say, what if you didn't get that job? What if you apply for all those jobs and nothing's coming through yet? If I had been applying, and I've done this before where I've applied, and nothing came through. If I had that period happen again, I'd go back to my list of desires and I'd look at it again and ask myself, am I ready for all these things? Am I ready to be well paid? Of course I am. Of course I'm ready to be. Everybody's ready to be well paid. But are you ready for the responsibilities that come with that? Like I said, I wanted something close to the museums. So I had to be clear, where are the museums? Where are all of the museums? Which areas of town are they in? And which places are hiring around there? So I had to plan as far as my commute. Would it take me extra time to get to this new office? Would it take me extra um, trips as far as on the metro, or could I walk to it? I had to look at all of those things because all of those things matter. It's the same thing with your new situation. If you say, I want a brand new house, I'm tired of living where I'm living, that's a great desire. Why do you want the new house? Where do you want it to be? Start taking those little road trips and those little side trips to get into the neighborhood where you'd ideally live. These things happen when you start putting the energy into it. So that's what I did for the job. I got the job. It was wonderful while I was there. When my health started to act up, it kind of took away from the pleasure of working there. But again, now I'm ready for a new chapter. And this new chapter, I'm going to do the same thing. And what I'll be doing is using this book, and I'll be talking you all through some of the exercises in this book, which is the Create Your Vision book. It's available at my website and on Amazon. You can start making those changes. But what I'm describing, you don't need a book for it other than a blank notebook. And you don't even have to use a blank notebook. You can get some sheets of paper and just write it down. A notebook is helpful to me because, of course, I can go back to it and reference those things that I wrote to see, did it happen. But for you, it might be something completely different. It might just be a cocktail napkin or a loose leaf sheet of paper, whatever. You definitely want to write it down though, because there's power in writing it. So that is my quick story, not so quick story, about how I got my dream job. I hope you all are having a great day or evening wherever you are. Subscribe if you're liking this content, or if you would like to see even more of these kind of videos. And I hope to chat with you all soon. Take care.